Hey everybody, today we're going to talk a little bit about the main art myths. Those are popular or unpopular opinions that involve art and working as an artist that I completely disagree with. And if you do agree with them or disagree with me or have a different opinion or just want to comment a little bit about what I say in this video, please leave an observation in the comments. I would love to read them and know a little bit about your opinion. So the first myth I want to talk about is a personally hurtful one that art isn't a real job. So when I was younger, I heard that many times, like not from my parents or anything, but I was just used to seeing people joking about selling art as if it wasn't a real job. So I grew up thinking art could only be a hobby and never a professional path for me to follow. And I think that if I had believed at a young age that art could be my professional occupation, I would be in a completely different place right now. I would not have wasted my time doing things that I didn't love just because they were considered real jobs, and I would have invested a lot more of my time at improving as an artist. So I would probably have been a lot happier during my early 20s when I joined university. And I feel very sorry about that. I think people should consider art as a real job because even though art isn't necessary for a living, it is a luxury. There are people to buy it, and it doesn't mean that it's less valuable just because of that. So, if you're an artist and you're still doing art just as a hobby because you're too scared of following it as a professional path, please remember that there is market for artists. You just really have to understand how to work your brand. And it's just like any job. I mean, you just have to understand how to work your brand. Who is your client? Who are you selling to? What is your product? There's basically everything that you can do at another job to sell yourself well and make money. That's everything you need to do for art as well. So please never feel discouraged by people making jokes or telling you that art isn't a real job because it is. I can affirm that, and every single professional artist that you talk to will agree with me because we had to fight a lot of misconceptions and prejudice to get where we are, and we're very, very proud of it. And I think you should have the courage to do the same if you want to. Okay, myth number 2. Realism artists are better. Well, that's another one that I hear a lot on social media and that most people that are not artists may agree with, but every single type of art requires different techniques that are different, right, between each other, but that doesn't mean they are inferior to each other. So, just like realism artists have techniques that cartoony artists or anime artists probably are not as good with, these cartoony artists have techniques that realism artists are not that great with. And that's absolutely okay. Every artist has one specific style that portrays their personality better or just the things they love better. And I think that that's what makes every single style so special. So it's not good to diminish one style just because there is another style that, I don't know, takes longer to make or is closer to reality. That's really unfair to cartoony artists because they also put a lot of effort in their art, and just because they use a different technique, it really does not mean they are inferior to realism artists. And assuming that is just very, very disrespectful. Art myth number 3. Traditional art is better than digital art. So, traditional artists, they are very used to that thing that digital artists don't go through. That is, if you make a mistake, there's really no going back. And a lot of people say that traditional artists, because they deal with this difficulty that makes drawing a little bit harder, they are better, and digital artists are always taking shortcuts. But well, artists have been trying to make their lives easier since day one. And even traditional artists, they use different supplies to try to get to their results in an easier way. And that's not a problem. It's just something that every single artist does. It doesn't matter if they're digital or traditional. And just because they have to go through difficulties, that doesn't mean they are better artists or worse artists. Digital art requires understanding of the softwares and everything that they use to draw just as much as traditional artists requires understanding of their supplies. So really there's no comparison between the two of them, and artists should just pick the media that they feel more comfortable with or identify with the most. And I don't think we should create useless rivalry between those two types of artists because each of them has their values. Art myth number 4, reference is cheating. Okay, this one makes me so angry because not only reference isn't cheating, reference is absolutely essential for you to grow as an artist. There's absolutely no way you're going to improve at drawing things if you don't know what things look like. That makes me so angry when people say that reference is cheating. When you have to draw hands and you look at a picture of a hand and then suddenly you know how to draw that hand. That's how art works. You cannot memorize how every single thing looks in order to draw without using references. So please, if you're an artist, use references. It doesn't matter if your art is like super cartoony, you have to know what things look like in order to draw them. So ignore every single person that says that reference is cheating. You're not tracing, it's not plagiarism. You're just studying how things look in order to draw them, okay? Use references. That's it. Period. Use references. Okay, so the 5th art myth is the one that I think there might be people who disagree with me on, is that style theft isn't a thing. So I see style theft more as a technique theft. So we're not talking about plagiarism, we're not talking about tracing, okay? We're talking about an artist that uses techniques for their drawing that look very similar to another artist's. But the artist still makes their own creations. So I think when you're an artist and you post your drawings online, you're showing other people what your techniques are. There's a lot of artists who post tutorials or step-by-steps, and I think that's pretty much their objective. Look at what my technique is. Look at how I do my drawings. And there are other artists that get inspired by those kinds of techniques. They just look at your work and they're like, oh, that's super cool. I'm going to take this technique and I'm going to use it with my own creations. When you look at it like that, do you see anything wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. Of course, there are people who dedicate their entire art careers at having art that looks like another artist's creations. That is pretty creepy. Yes, that is creepy. But as long as they're doing their own creations, they're not tracing, they're not copying, they're just using a similar technique, I don't really see a problem with it. Please, if you're an artist, let go of this intellectual property that tells people that they cannot use the same technique as you. That's a little bit, I don't know, get off your high horse, okay? Let people use the same technique as you for their own creations. There's nothing wrong about it. So these have been the 5 main art myths and my opinion about them. Please leave in the comments how you feel about it, if you disagree with me, if you think there are more problems that I should address on my next video. I would love to read your comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next video!